So it was previously believed that autism was 4 times more common in males than it was in females. Then they were like, oh wait, no, it seemed a little bit more like there's 3 autistic males for every autistic woman. And now the most recent research seems to be saying, oh, oopsies, it looks like it could be 3 autistic women for every 4 autistic boys. Okay, so I mean, no matter what the true statistics are, it is looking like there is this lost generation of autistic women who went undiagnosed, so therefore had no support throughout education and then maybe onto higher education and work and motherhood and all those things. I found a 2022 paper that states that 80% of autistic women are undiagnosed by the time they reach their 18th birthday. In this time, they may have been dismissed if they tried to seek help for their struggles, or they may have been misdiagnosed. It appears that women with ASD get an alphabet soup, love that phrase, of diagnoses, including borderline personality disorders, eating disorders, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, post-traumatic stress disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, which I've never heard of before, ADHD, as well as the varieties of anxiety, agoraphobia, panic disorder, and depression. So I found out that I'm autistic at the age of 25, and what really helped me, and I probably wouldn't have found out otherwise, was YouTube videos where women discussed the traits that they experienced. And I saw a lot of myself reflected in those points. So that's why I want to put out another video. I tried to put together 10 traits and I ended up with 30. So I am going to make a 3-part series. So this is the first video and this one's going to be about social stuff. Then I'm also going to make a video about sensory differences. And then the third video is going to be emotional and interest related things combined together. Although this video, according to the title, is aimed at women and people who were assigned female at birth, this can be applicable to anybody of any gender. I don't have any data on this, but I personally feel like there are a lot of men who slip through the cracks too, and people like Paul from Autism from the Inside went for most of their lives with no diagnosis. And I think men can sometimes get away with it being a little bit eccentric and a little bit less sociable and less smiley. They can kind of just do this grumpy man loner, he's just in love with his hobbies, just leave him in his study, he's fine kind of thing, a little bit easier than women can, and women kind of get a little bit more judgment when we're not these beautiful, flowery, very pleasing beings. Women aren't able to get away with like blank expressions and silences and hatred for small talk in the same way that men potentially are. So then that means if a lot of men aren't diagnosed, then how many women are not diagnosed? It's kind of scary stuff, but let's do what we can to get the information out there. Before I get on to talking about the social stuff, I just want to say, remember that everybody is different. It's a spectrum. We're all different, not more or less autistic, but just different. We're all different. You could very well not relate to basically any of the things I'm about to say, and you could still be autistic. So you won't necessarily relate to everything I say. That is fine. That made me panic a bit when I was first looking into it, because I was like, sometimes I'd hear one and I was like, ooh, that's not me, or like, oh, I'm not sure to what extent that is me, and it would kind of send me into a whole existential crisis situation. So don't let that happen. And also remember that although autism is a neurodevelopmental condition, so your brain and your nervous system function differently, it's not something that you can be cured from, but you are still a human being. You are still capable of growth and of learning and changing. And so if you're 24 years old, you've had 24 years to kind of learn things and pick things up from other people and adapt your behavior. So you may have to look all the way back to childhood to find evidence of some of these things, or equally, these things may have popped up more later in life, maybe around your mid to late teens, your early 20s, when life became more demanding and more stressful, and therefore you couldn't kind of internalize your traits as much. So number 1, you may identify as being someone who has social anxiety. You may find yourself having a bit of a threat response to social situations. One of the ways that this manifests for me is I've always tried to wriggle out of social situations as quickly as possible, even when I like the person and I do want to be talking to the person. Believe it or not, I actually worked at Lush for a little bit and I really enjoyed working there, and actually my favourite thing to do was actually talking to people, and that's what made time go the fastest, strangely enough. But one of the feedback, and they put me on the shop floor a lot, and I don't think they thought I was bad at talking to customers, otherwise they wouldn't have done that. But one of the comments that I got was that I don't speak to people for long enough and I should try and prolong my conversations with people. And I remember getting that feedback and feeling so uncomfortable about the idea of doing that. I just didn't really know how. I just want to end things, particularly if it's good. It's like, okay, let's just leave it here. And you may not feel this so much around people that you feel safe with. And for me, I'm a lot better with one-on-one, which is probably why I didn't mind the Lush so much, because it was usually talking to one customer at the time. One-on-one is not as bad. But yeah, the more unfamiliar a person is, the harder it is. In groups, bigger groups, I just kind of disappear from the room, basically. Number 2 is you may identify or have identified as being a loner or lonely. So when I started nursery at probably around 4 years old, I just remember walking around in circles around the playground. I don't know where the nursery staff were while this was going on. Like, did nobody think, is she okay? Like, I don't know. But I would just, walk around in circles and kind of make up stories about the people on the playground in my head instead of interacting with them. And I don't know, it's difficult. Like, I'm not sure how much I wanted to be interacting with people and how much I was just, I liked being on my own. I think I was enjoying myself in my own head to some extent, but I feel like it's kind of a sad memory. There was an element of sadness to it and loneliness at the same time. I kind of wanted to be on my own, but then I also wanted to be involved, but I didn't know how. And it kind of felt a bit like, oh, everyone else is managing this and everyone else is in there and I don't know how to be in there. And at the same time, I also don't know how much I want to be in there. And it was just difficult. I didn't know how to initiate it, basically. And I read this really, really interesting 2019 qualitative study where they interviewed quite a few autistic women about their experiences, which is really, really cool and really important information to have. And here's a quote from one of the women. "I certainly remember feeling like normal people have, the ability to sort of broadcast a telepathic message saying, let's kick this friendship off by going to my house and having a party or something. And it's like, I'm not telepathic. I can't pick up any telepathic messages." And then another woman said, "It kind of feels like you're an outsider looking in, and like there's this world that you're just kind of observing from the outside. And when you have to get directly involved in it, it can be a bit hard sometimes." It's kind of like the Taylor Swift song, The Outside. If you know, you know. I actually did manage to make a friends with somebody by going up to them. I think I was a little bit older. I was probably around 8 years old at that point, but I went up to them and I said, "Can I be your friend?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then they moved to Wales. So I don't really know how how well that worked out, but yeah, maybe I should try that again sometime. So yes, number 3, you may actually have friends. What? Autistic people can have friends? What? Mind blown. But your friendship group may be a little bit weird. It might be kind of like all the misfits stapled together. One of the mothers in the qualitative study that I just read a few quotes from referred to it as the leftover group, which I just think is an amazing way to sum it up. That was every single friendship I had in definitely primary school and high school at least. And I don't mean that to be mean to anybody who I was friends with while I was younger. Like, I was friends with so many interesting people. I'm still friends with quite a few now, and there are more who I kind of wish I was still friends with because they were super, super interesting people. But yeah, you may relate to this, feeling like you're part of a group that's kind of on the outskirts, you're not particularly popular, and you may actually, thinking back, realize that a lot of your friends were neurodiverse. Either because you knew they were neurodiverse, maybe they were diagnosed autistic or ADHD or something along those lines, maybe they were dyslexic, something like that. Or maybe just looking back, you see that you had a lot of weird specific similarities that perhaps seem to link to a lot of these autistic traits, and you're like, ooh, maybe they could also have been undiagnosed autistic or ADHD or something like that. I think we often do tend to be drawn together and flock together, whether that's just because we're all left over by default so that we end up together, or whether it's because we do kind of have a connection. I'd like to think maybe more the latter one there. Number 4, you may struggle to maintain and prioritize friendships. So you may not be so bad at making friends, but it's just once you have the friendships, you don't really know how to keep it going. I've definitely heard quite a lot of autistic women say that they kind of drifted from one friendship group to another. Maybe they had periods where they spent a whole lot of time on their own and they just couldn't, face being around their friends, and then maybe they drifted back again. You may also find yourself ending friendships quite a lot, sometimes not even knowing why you're ending the friendship and not even being able to understand yourself. I personally feel like I just run out of stamina for a friendship sometimes, and sometimes it's like the more I like the person, the more I kind of just can't, because it's scary, I suppose, to some extent as well. But that doesn't mean I'm incapable of holding on to friendships. I do have a lot of people who from my childhood who I'm still friends with, and a lot of those people are those, you know, kind of friends who just, they care about you unconditionally, and even if you don't reply straight away, they're still there for you. You can pick up when you left off whenever. I saw this great meme about this the other day that really sums this up. My best friends, they ignore my messages as frequently as I ignore theirs. It's great. I just don't know how neurotypical people manage to prioritize friendships amongst all the other things they're out to do in life as well. I really struggle with that, and perhaps that's to do with being a parent, but I also kind of think that's a big fat giant excuse, and that I was like that before having a child as well. Number 5, another quote from the qualitative study. It's harder as a girl because girl peers are less forgiving of other girls. So as a result, you might prefer to be friends with boys, because to be stereotypical, boys can be more straightforward. You know, you want to go to the cinema with your guy friend, and then you message them and you're like, do you want to go to the cinema? And they reply and they say, no, full stop. And cool, you know where you stand, it's all good. You message a girlfriend and she's like, oh yeah, hon, would love to go, that sounds absolutely amazing, love you, can't wait, kiss, 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 kiss. And then, kind of predictably, maybe 5 minutes before you're due to leave, when your whole day you've been sat there knowing that this outing was going to happen, mentally preparing yourself, unable to focus on anything else. This is perhaps why it's exhausting to maintain friendships. They message and they go, oh sorry hon, I can't make it, I just realised I've got a dentist appointment now. It's always the bloody dentist. Like, are you trying to make an excuse for an absence at school? Like, what is this? Anyway, but love you hon, so sorry, would have had such a great time if we'd gone, maybe next time. Kiss, 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 kiss. And then you make more plans and then the same thing happens, and then you're just like, why did you say yes in the first place? Like, you knew you weren't gonna go, you know, like, what are we doing this? It just feels like this dance sometimes, and you're just like, I just want to be told straight, you know, like, and I understand that people's mood change on the day and whatever, and life is tough, but still, it's just like, you know, if you don't want to go, be honest with yourself, be honest with me, you don't want to go. It's all good. I can't say this person's name, but there was a 2017 study reported similar findings, with women reporting that they felt different to societal gender norms and felt that their interests were more aligned with those of male than female peers. So you might also feel like your interests are kind of more masculine to some extent as well, whatever the fudge that means. Number 6, you may prefer to socialize with people outside of your age group. So this might be people older than you or people younger than you. There are probably a lot of autistic female teachers' pets out there, for sure. I definitely loved a good stay behind and talk to the teacher after class, and they all liked me quite a lot, which was quite fun. Sometimes you got little perks. It was alright. A lot of autistic women also mention that they like being around children a lot, and they find children less judgmental. I can kind of see it, but like, unless it's my own child, sensory wise, probably no for me. Also, animals as well as a bonus one. Autistic people often, you know, find animals a little bit easier, a little bit more, they're like men. They're straightforward. Animals are like men. They just want cuddles. They don't care. I'm talking about animals, not men, but maybe some do. They just want cuddles. They don't care about societal norms. They don't care if you flap your arms a bit and look a bit odd sometimes. They're like, oh, fine. Are you gonna give me food? Can I sit on the bed next to you? Thank you. Number 7, you may have always felt a little bit vulnerable and naive compared to other people. So you may kind of feel like you're an easy target for bullying and not always be sure exactly why. I see it almost every day. It's really sad on a lot of the autistic Facebook groups that I'm in. A lot of autistic women writing long posts trying to decide whether the people they are friends with are actually friends with them, or whether they're actually picking on them and they're just being friends with them so they can kind of take film of them and put it on social media and laugh at them, and they can't tell whether people are making fun of them or not. I think I just went the way of assuming everyone was, by high school, everyone was making fun of me basically all the time, which they mostly probably were, but sometimes I was probably wrong about that, I think. One person in the study described it as being prey in a world full of predators, which is sad, but like, yes, I understand what you mean. I've also heard a lot of autistic women say they have been perceived as flirting with somebody when they actually weren't. And this, I think, must have happened to me at college because some guy in a media studies lesson who I kind of was an acquaintance basically just started tickling me, and I don't really know why. I don't know what was going on there, but it definitely has happened to me before, where I think I'm just conscious of being nice and appearing like a nice person and having nice pleasant facial expressions, which is masking basically. And I'm going to make a video about what masking feels like and how to kind of know if you're masking, and if it's not posted already, that will be posted soon, so subscribe if you want to see that. But I think that masking can be, you know, you kind of apply that to some situations where maybe you should be a little bit more vigilant and think, okay, no, I probably shouldn't maybe smile at this person because they might take it as some sort of invitation. And yeah, I definitely have been in situations like that, I think. Number 8, you may have issues with eye contact. And note that I didn't say you may be completely unable in any situation to ever make eye contact, because that's what it seems like. If you were to just Google traits of autism, you would probably see things about just never making eye contact and the inability to make eye contact completely. And for me, this gave me massive imposter syndrome when I was first considering the possibility that I could be autistic. I'd never really thought of myself as being someone who'd had a problem with eye contact, and then I kind of just left the thought there in my subconscious, and then a few memories sprang up. And I remember this time when I was in a design and technology lesson in high school, so it was like, I don't know if it was woodwork or something, I don't know what it was. Making stupid stuff that nobody needs. It was a strict teacher who I'd never had before, and I don't know, he was doing that thing what they always have to do, and it's such a cliche, I don't know why, where they have to tell you all the gruesome stories of and go through all the machines that you'll be using throughout the year and tell you how somebody chopped off their hand and got their head caught in a vice or something. I don't know what the flip. Anyway, they have to tell you all these gruesome stories, and he wanted us to listen. And he went on like a 40-minute lecture, but before he did, he said, you must keep eye contact with me the whole time, which is just weird. Like, why do you want a room full of like 30 people staring you down? Why is that appealing to you? Obviously we're on some sort of power trip here. Okay, cool. Anyway, we want us to be staring at you the whole time. Cool. So I noted this in my brain and went, okay, I can do that. That's fine. And then I sit there and I've got an internal monologue. Keep looking at him, keep looking at him, keep looking at him. And then at some point he looks at me, and I'm like looking behind me thinking, is this me? Because I'm like Miss Goody Two-Shoes in school, and he shouts at me and says, your eye contact is appalling, and he makes me stand up for, it felt like an eternity. I don't know how long it was. And I was just so shocked because I'd been trying really hard because he'd literally said it. And when I think about it now, I feel like I was maybe bringing my eyes back a lot. Like I was thinking, oh, I need to make eye contact. Oh, I need to make eye contact, which suggests my eyes were probably drifting away sometimes, but I was listening to everything he was saying. I just think I didn't realize at the time, and I now do realize I concentrate better when I'm not concentrating on looking at somebody. When I'm just, he's talking about different things around the room, so I was looking around the room. Maybe I'm looking outside at the tree, out the window a little bit, but I'm still hearing what you're saying. And for some reason to him, he thinks that you listen with your eyes. Isn't that from that I Can Sing a Rainbow song? That's a really stupid song. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about? Anyway, I mean, nobody made fun of me for it, so that's good. That's a win in high school. Nobody makes fun of you for something. Did it even happen? Probably why I didn't remember it. And I was just very confused by it. And then I also remembered that I have been on YouTube basically since 2008 in some capacity making videos, which is why I can kind of speak on camera. But then I've had a lot of comments throughout the years, and I'm probably doing it now. I look around all the time, and then I looked back at the footage and I was like, yeah, I think I'm looking at the camera lens the whole time, but I'm not. I'm just, my eyes just go all over the place all the time. And people said they found it distracting, but for me, I would find it super distracting to just stare down the lens, because then I'm constantly thinking about it, and it just, something about it feels a little bit intimidating, maybe is the word, a little bit unsettling. I don't know. One thing that I've noticed in myself as well is that the more comfortable I am with someone, the less likely I am to make good eye contact with them. Good eye contact. I noticed a while before I discovered that I'm autistic that I don't look at my mom a lot when I speak to her. I often look at the floor, I look down, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, what is wrong with my mom's relationship? Do I hate her? What has happened here? What trauma is this? And now I realize, no, she was the person. She was there from, when I was born, before I knew to, mask or behave in a certain way. She knows me the best. So if I feel more comfortable not looking someone in the eye, that's how I'm gonna be with her. I'm not necessarily gonna look her in the eye. Number 9, you might have differences in body language. So you might have heard about the T-Rex arms. I do a lot of the T-Rex arms. Didn't realise that I did. It's also hands are the main thing. Like, what do you do with hands? Where do you put them? Pockets are nice, you know, like just, ew, what are they doing? They're just dangling here. Where do you put them? You know? It really shows that I have no idea what to do with my hands if I look back at old photos and videos of myself. And actually, I was also sent out of a lesson by a PE teacher because I folded my arms during a football lesson.
We need to call the police.
Now, in my defense, as well as folding your arms being quite a nice, comforting little thing to do, it was also absolutely freezing and we were in shorts and a t-shirt. Why is this okay? My hands were bright red. It would be impossible for me to do my buttons when I got into the changing room. Why is this okay? Why is this okay? I don't. And number 10, you're constantly monitoring your behavior in social situations. So as I said, this is masking and I am going to make a video all about masking so you know what it feels like from the inside. As soon as it's up, I will link it in the description, so check if it's there if you want. Basically, you might notice that you have this kind of constant internal monologue that's kind of policing how you appear to another person. So like, okay, I'm folding my arms, is this okay? Alright, people might think that that's a little bit rude, so now I'm gonna sit like this. Oh, but now do I look a bit weird? Am I looking at the person? Okay, bring the eyes back, make sure you're looking at them, that kind of thing. And then the whole big massive stress about what you do with your hands as well is probably there too. I thought all introverted people had this, but no, from speaking to introverted friends and family, no, that is an autistic thing. So if you found this video valuable, then feel free to subscribe. I'd love to make more videos about my high school experience and my school experience in general, because it was definitely a bumpy ride. So if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy part 2, which is about all the sensory stuff. We've gone mad. My cat is just going crazy. She's got the zoomies. She hasn't even done a poo. What is the reason for this? Can you explain your behaviour? Videos like this where women discussed the traits that they experience.